Which is the best electric SUV between the new BMW iX, the Mercedes EQC, or Audi e-tron? Well, in this video I'm going to find out, and to do that I'm going to compare what they're like to drive and their efficiency in 3 key driving conditions: on a twisty road, on the motorway, or in town. I'm also going to compare their designs, their interiors, see how practical they are, try out their technology, and of course I'm going to launch them to time them over the standing quarter mile and from 0 to 60, because I'm Matt Watson and you're watching Carwow.
Buying a new car? Then head to Carwow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. Carwow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
Let's start this video by talking about all the battery stuff. Rather than me just list out a load of numbers, which you'll forget, I'm going to show them as graphics on the screen. Okay, so for these very cars I've got here, these are their battery capacities, these are their claimed ranges, these are their fastest charging rates on DC, and these are how long they're going to take you to charge on a 7 kilowatt wall charger at home. You got that? Okay, let's carry on with the video. What I'm going to do now is put those range claims to the test. So I'm going to drive each car at 70 miles an hour on the motorway and see what their energy consumption is like, and then work out the real world range if you're driving them on the motorway. I'm going to start off in this Mercedes EQC. Tell you what though, driving at 70 miles an hour in this EQC is pretty relaxing. A little bit of wind noise, just a little bit, but it's very nice and it's comfy over bumps. It just like wafts along nicely. Starting price for one of these, £67,000. Though you can save £2,600 off on average through Carwow. In fact, if you're thinking about changing your car, then click on the pop-out banner up there. I'll follow the link in the description below to go to Carwow. You can actually sell your old car through us, so we'll get our dealers to bid on your car to make sure you get a good price for it, and then you can make sure that you're getting a good price for the car you're buying as well through us. Now, if you want to do that at a later date, simply Google "Wow me Carwow" and we will wow you. I'm going to reset the trip computer and we'll see just how efficient this EQC is. Reset. While I'm doing this test, I have actually got the car's ventilation system on, but I've got it set to what I'd normally have it, so it's at 22 degrees for me right now, which is nice. That does affect the battery a little bit, but not too much, as long as you don't have the heater blasting away all your heated seats and stuff on, and I haven't got the one. I just want to say a big thank you to Virtue Mercedes, who have loaned us this car. Virtue is one of our trusted Carwow partners. If you're looking for a Mercedes, you can go check them out. One thing I've noticed while driving at speed in this car is the fact that while the suspension feels nice and soft, because this surface is a little bit bumpy, you can feel a slight fidget in this car suspension. It's not like comfy or anything like that, it's just that you can feel the car moving a little bit beneath you. We are coming up to the 4 mile mark. What will be the average consumption? 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour. So this car has a battery capacity of 80 kilowatts. That means the real world range will be 184 miles. Let's do the next car. I've jumped into the BMW. Going to do the same thing again. I've got the cruise control set to 70 miles an hour. I've got the temperature 22, no heated seats on. I'm going to reset the trip computer and see what this thing does when you're cruising at 70 miles an hour. So here comes the starting point now. Reset. Let's do this. So the first thing I notice when driving this compared to that Mercedes is that it feels just as comfy, yet it's not quite so fidgety over the minor imperfections. There's not much in it though. Also, there's not much in the difference in noise levels. I think this is probably ever so slightly quieter. Overall wind noise is a bit less, though there is a bit more wind noise from just around here than in the Mercedes. Once again though, the differences are marginal, and really you've got to be a motoring journalist trying to do his job to justify its existence to spot the difference. So let me tell you about this BMW iX. It starts from £70,000 for the iX40, whereas this iX50 starts from £94,000. What are you paying for? More power and a bigger battery. So with 105 kilowatt hour capacity, it should give you a good range. But what is the real world range? We're going to find out in a moment. Here we go. It's going to flip over now. It's going to flip over now. What we got? We've got 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, when you times that by the battery capacity of 105 kilowatts, the range would be 231 miles. So slightly less efficient at speed than the Mercedes, but that bigger battery just does the job in the end. Finally then, I've jumped into the Audi. Now, the Audi e-tron has a low starting price. It kicks off at just over £60,000. Now, that's for the normal one. If you want the Sportback, it's about £1,000 more. Obviously, this is the S, so it's got tri-motors and the 87 kilowatt hour battery in it rather than the normal 65. As a result, it's more expensive, £90,000. Thankfully, you can save a decent amount of money through carwow. So the normal e-tron, you can save an average of £5,000. With the Sportback, the average saving across the range through carwow is around £3,000. So if you're thinking about buying one of these, make sure you check out carwow for the latest offers. Also, I want to say a big thank you to the guys at Lookers Audi. They're one of our trusted carwow dealers, and they've lent me this car to film today. Very kind of them. So why is this Audi e-tron like to drive when you're cruising along the motorway? Well, it's quiet. The best car for wind noise, as in it has the least amount of wind noise, though I am noticing a bit of tyre noise, but maybe that's because it's the sporty S version with some chunkier, meatier tyres, and they're nice and comfy. The suspension is slightly firmer than on the other two cars, but that's once again because it's the S version, it's got sportier suspension, but it's not uncomfy, real good quality air suspension. It's so nip and tuck between the three cars. I think overall though, the BMW does just about take the edge in the comfort stakes. Then the Mercedes is a bit more comfortable than this, but only because it is the S version. I think when you've got the normal non-S e-tron, it's just as comfortable as that Mercedes. Is this as efficient on the motorway as the Mercedes? We're going to find out now. So here we go, 4 miles. 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Oh dear. Could that be to do with the tri-motors? I don't know. But anyway, when you multiply that by the car's battery capacity of 87 kilowatt hours, the actual true range when driving on the motorway in this car is 183 miles. Now, this is how all the cars compare on the motorway in terms of energy consumption and range. I hope you enjoyed that. Now let's talk about these cars' designs, and let's start with the Audi, and it's dead simple really. Regardless of whether you go for this swoopy Sportback model or the standard e-tron, this is a good looking car. The Mercedes, they've been a bit lazy with it. It's just another SUV. They're like, oh, we will put a light bar on the front and that will make it look really cool. But no, it doesn't. Yeah, it sort of blends in a bit too much. Can't say that about the BMW. It's like their designers just went completely berserk and just designed everything. However, it's a little bit like a prostate exam that, you know, makes you wince at first, but then you do eventually get used to it. Now I'm going to compare these three electric cars round a city course. What I'm going to do is drive around this course, stop for things like stop signs and pedestrian crossings, just see how they feel to drive. I'm also going to check their efficiency while driving in such an environment. So I'm going to reset the trip computer on this e-tron and let's get underway. Here comes the first stop. I'm going to put Regen into max mode, see what it's like for one pedal driving. So I'm lifting off the accelerator now and it's really hardly slowing at all. Had to use the brakes. I thought I was going to be able to stop. That is probably the least regen-y of the regens that I've had from any electric car. It just feels like a normal internal combustion engine automatic when you lift off, really. Obviously it doesn't feel like one to drive when you're just tootling around town because it's super quiet. The turning circle is 12.2 meters, which is okay but not exactly great. The steering, it's not overly light, it's not overly heavy, it's fine. Now let's go over a speed hump, which is commonplace in town, so let's see what it's like. That was good. It dealt with it well, and because this being the sportier version, the suspension's a bit firmer, so it didn't dive. Because sometimes when you get big wafty cars go over a speed hump, they just ground their nose out because the suspension's just all wallowy and stuff. Not with this. Okay, now we're coming up to an abrupt bump. Let's try over this, see what it's like. Dealt with that well as well, and hardly any of that suspension noise entered the cabin. It's really, really quite quiet, this car. One more pedestrian crossing. This one I'm going to brake for quite abruptly. Here we go. Brakes feel firm and very natural, which is good. So we're coming to the end here, the stop, and we'll see what the energy consumption is. 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour. So that means that when you multiply it by the battery range of 87 kilowatt hours, in town, if you're driving non-stop, this thing would do 191 miles. Let's get the next car. Now I've jumped into the BMW, so I'm going to reset the trip computer. So I'm going to go into B mode for max regen braking, so I can one pedal drive. Steering nice and light, that's good. the fact that the dash is really low, you get a great view forward out of this car. It's really, really nice. These pillars are thick, big blind spot, but if you're out the back window, that's good. What's also good is the Regen Braking. Look, I can definitely one pedal drive and stop, just lift off the accelerator, comes to a complete stop, allows you full control of your car. What also gives you full control of this car is the fact that this one is fitted with the optional rear wheel steering. So when you're getting at lower speeds, the back wheels turn in the opposite direction to the front, make it turn tighter. And you kind of want that with this because as standard, without the rear wheel steering, the turning circle is 13 meters, which means if you've got to do a U-turn, you're probably going to end up having to do a 3-point turn because 13-meter turning circle is quite large. Another thing this car is fitted with is air suspension. So the 50 gets it as standard. It's so good. Okay, coming up to the zebra crossing here. Stopped again using Regen. I haven't touched the brakes yet, not once. Pickup's nice and smooth, but is it going to be smooth over this sharp bump? Oh, that's good. So dealt with that bump really well, and I didn't hear much suspension noise entering the cabin either. Final zebra crossing, and I'm going to use the brakes here to feel what they're like. They're strong, but they don't feel grabby, so you don't notice the transition between regen braking and friction braking, so that's good. I wonder how much energy we put back into the battery. So we've averaged 2.2 miles, oh no, it's just clicked over, 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour. So if you're driving around town, based on the fact this has a 105 kilowatt hour battery, you'll be able to drive around town for 242 miles. That will be very boring indeed. It's quite impressive. Finally then, the EQC. So I'm just going to reset the trip computer and off we go. So I am going to put the drive mode into maximum regen so I can do one pedal driving. Here comes a stop sign, so I'll just back off, that's it, let the regen do its thing, recouping energy while slowing down. Though look, it's actually stopping it. I do have to just touch the brake for that final stop. It's a bit annoying. One good thing about this car, the steering is really nice and light. It is so easy to maneuver. It really does just make for effortless turning. And the turning circle is the tightest of all the cars. Well, the ones I'm testing. 11.8 meters, good. Visibility is generally good, though this pillar is quite fat and the view at the back is not great. Now let's go over the speed hump, see how it deals with that. No problem. It did bottom out a little bit. So because you've got that soft floaty suspension, you know, you hit a speed hump too quickly, you will get a bit of grinding noise. Here comes the abrupt bump. What's this like? It's okay. What you do get is quite a bit of suspension noise though, which does just intrude somewhat and just spoils the overall feeling of refinement and luxuriousness. That's my luxurious voice. Okay, here comes the last zebra crossing. At least the brakes, they feel smooth. They're not grabby like they are on some electric cars. Anyway, what are the scores? Let's find out. So that route, it averaged 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour. So that works out to a range, if you're just driving in town, of 192 miles. Here's how all the cars compare for stats in town. Now I'm going to compare these cars' interior designs. And even though the EQC is based on the GLC, it feels suitably more interesting. The dash design is just a bit more curved. This ledge that you have here and the vents are more futuristic. There's these kind of slats that you can play like that. And you've got these big screens as well with some special EQ displays. And the infotainment system is nice and easy to use. Though Mercedes hasn't gone and put the climate controls through there alone, you can also use the climate control with these physical buttons, which is easy to do when you're driving. Yeah, it's nice in here. Feels high quality as well. Do you know what? I think I prefer this e-tron's interior even more than that Mercedes. The material quality is better still, and the design is slightly cooler, especially like this gear selector here and this storage area. It's all nice, very well thought out. Though what's not so well thought out is the fact that you can only control the climate using this touchscreen, and you have to really take your eyes off the road to do it and operate it. It's all down here. The infotainment itself isn't quite as good as in the Mercedes, and I prefer the way that you have the screen higher up in the EQC. Can't fault this digital driver display in this car though. It is very clear and gives you all the information you need. As with the Audi, the BMW doesn't have any physical buttons for the climate control, so you have to use the touch screen. Speaking of which, this is a glorious screen, the way it's curved, it's high def. The problem is that BMW's latest user interface it's so confusing, it's like a blooming puzzle. Oh my gosh. In terms of the interior quality, generally it's really nice, the materials in here, and you can upgrade it with things like, look, crystal bits for the controller, for the volume knob, for the starter button, the drive mode and selector and all of that kind of thing. However, in places, scratchy. That's a bit of a shame, because other than that, this definitely feels like the most special interior. It's so futuristic, so bespoke, but maybe that's because this car is built on its own electric car chassis. It's not an internal combustion engine chassis that's been developed to actually take an electric powertrain. As a result, look at all the space you've got here. It just feels so roomy, so modern, so fresh in here. I like the seats as well. They're sort of like the seats you'd have in your lounge. Right, now let's see how much fun these electric SUVs can be on a twisty road. I'm going to start off with the BMW. So I've got it in sports mode. I'm going to just reset the trick computer as well so we can measure the efficiency. It actually feels pretty good, you know, like the steering is really, really responsive. It's got good weighting to it. It feels quite sporty. It does add to it putting in sports mode because it just stiffens at the suspension, and I've got the stability control in a slightly looser setting, so it might give me some slip, although I don't want to slip too much, because there's only so much you can do really with these kind of cars, because they are heavy, all of them weighing about 2.5 tons. That weight is low down though, so they don't lean too much in the bends, and this is staying pretty flat, and the responsiveness of the motors is really good. It's great for putting the power down. Look, whoa, there we go. Oh, the grip you get accelerating out of the turns is really quite impressive, and the instant throttle response, you can control it so well. This is way more fun than I imagined, but am I going to be laughing at the energy consumption? Oh, here we go, 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So that will give you a range of 158 miles, hooning it down a country road. Okay, now I've jumped into the EQC. Once again, I'm just going to reset my trick computer. So what I'm going to do is put the regen mode into coast. So it's not actually going to do regen when I lift off, because I think that gives you too much motor braking, which upsets the balance of the car. If you want to have fun in some corners, sometimes you want to be able to just roll through the corners, and so it's better when you just do it in coasty mode. Do you know what? For a heavy vehicle, and one that's quite softly suspended, it goes around corners all right. It does start to push on a bit if you get a bit too carried away, and the ABS will kick in if you suddenly have to stamp on the brakes. It's doing an all right job. One thing I can't complain about though is the traction you get when you put your foot down, and it picks up nicely, well, and then it tells you off again for going too quickly, right? Okay, so what did we get? We averaged 1.6 miles per kilowatt hour. So that equates to 128 miles. Oh. Finally then the Audi. Let's see what you got around this country road. So I'll reset the trick computer and off we go. Yeah, it feels sporty than the other two, just in the way that it drives. It just feels more solid. The steering though isn't quite as nice as in the BMW or even the Mercedes. It's weighty, but it's just a bit computer gamey. As in, you can't really feel what the front wheels are doing much. But this thing does hold onto the road well. You know, for a big, heavy electric SUV, you can absolutely hustle it along, quite surprisingly so. I'm driving around here maybe a little bit quicker than in the other cars. Just gives you the confidence to do that. The normal e-tron is actually somewhere, I think, between the BMW and the Mercedes, with the Mercedes obviously being the more relaxed and chilled of the group. Right, coming out this corner, let's floor it. Yeah, it picks up really nice, puts its power down well. Doesn't seem to just rock it off like the BMW. The throttle response on that BMW is almost neck snapping. This tends to bleed the power in a bit more. Just feels a bit more natural rather than uncomfortable. But here we go, we're coming to the end. Oh, actually when you're driving quickly, got 1.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That's interesting. So it's been less efficient so far, but drive it quickly and it loves it. So a 1.7 miles per kilowatt hour times by an 87 kilowatt hour battery capacity means the range on a twisty road driving like that, 148 miles. Now what I'm going to do is just flash up the comparisons for the three cars in this environment so you can compare them at your leisure. Okay, your leisure time is now over. Let's continue with this video. I've decided to jump into the back seats of the Audi to see what it's like for practicality. So knee room is really good, and you can stretch out underneath the seat in front. Headroom, that's decent as well, considering this is the Sportback with the sloping roofline. There's even more headroom if you have the standard car. It's spacious back here, and there's not much of a hump in the floor. Looks pretty much flat, that floor. So plenty of room for everyone's feet if you need to carry 3 people in the back at once. I'm quite impressed by this. The Mercedes is roomy enough in the back for most people, but it doesn't feel quite...
How can I help?
You can help by not interrupting me when I'm trying to talk to camera, Miss Voice Commands. Cancel now.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please?
Off.
I'm sorry, but I can't help you with it right now.
Had the same result. Anyhow, yeah, it's roomy enough, but not as spacious as the Audi. For instance, knee room isn't quite as good, neither is foot space. You've also got this big hump in the floor, which will be annoying if you're the central passenger because you'll have to straddle it. The only way this car is better than that Audi is headroom, but that's because that's a Sportback model. Finally then, the BMW, and I've definitely saved the best till last. This is just on another level in terms of space. Look at the amount of knee room, the amount of headroom. It's insane. Now, these rear seats, they are slightly lower than in the other cars, but that doesn't really matter because there's just so much room to stretch out in. It's palatial, darling. It's lovely. Oh, do you know what? If you want to compare different electric cars and see all the latest offers on them, you need to check out the CarWow Electric Car Hub page. Now, to do that, click on the pop-out banner up there or follow the link in the description below. Alternatively, just simply Google Wow Me CarWow and you can go there in future. Now I'm going to compare the car's boot. So with the iX, you have 500 litres of space. That includes some storage under here where you can put your cables. I like the fact that you can fold down the rear seats like that just by pulling on those buttons. It's good. Now the Mercedes also has a boot capacity of 500 litres and some very useful space under there. That's actually better, I think, than in the BMW, and like with the BMW, you can fold down the seats like that. There we go, electrically, flat low bay, that's good. Finally then, we come to the Audi. So it has the biggest boot, 615 litres. In fact, if you had the normal e-tron, it's 660 litres, massive. But if you want to fold down the seats, you have to reach in. Oh. This doesn't feel quite as good, and the seats don't lie quite as flat as in the other cars. Oh, I forgot to show you the underfloor storage. I've been storing my pet dog under there. Come on, Barney, come out. That's it. I told you I didn't want you chewing and slobbering all over the interior. I'm sorry about that. Now, this car does have a little bit of a load lip, which is a little bit more tricky for Barney to hop out. Get up, Barney, you're right. I think Barney might be quite ill. Before we go any further, I want to point something out which annoys me about some of these electric SUVs. Look at the charge port cover. It's massive on this iX. It's like an air brake. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. Mercedes doesn't really bother to do anything with the one on this EQC. It's just the same as on the GLC. They just put the electrical charging ports in there. Lazy. That's not the case with Audi though. Look. What a beautiful mechanism for the e-tron's charge port cover. And you actually have two AC charging ports on this car, one on each side, which is handy, although the DC is just over on the right-hand side. The entry-level Audi e-tron produces 313 horsepower from its two electric motors, but this S model has three electric motors, and combined they produce 503 horsepower and 973 newton meters of torque. 0 to 60 is supposed to take 4.5 seconds, but let's see what I get with my specialist timing gear here. Let's launch it. Let's go. Lots of noise as things fly around. Takes off well. Something happened there. It just like died. 5.33 to 60, but then it's like the power was cut immediately and the quarter mile is odd. This is not right. 14.56. Don't understand what happened there. I'm going to just try it again. It's like it just lost its mind and cut all power as soon as it hit 60 miles an hour. Let's go again. What's wrong with that? Let's launch. It's not letting me do it. It's so odd. Let's try again. Let's just launch. Nope. It's cut the power. Don't know what's going on. How odd. Right. It's only giving me 75% power. I'm going to do a brake test anyway from 70 miles an hour. So let's get to 70 and I'll brake. Here we go. Full emergency stop. From 70, 154 feet. And this is the number in meters. Well, I don't know what this car's doing. Very odd. Well, that's your chance, Dash, then. Audi. Let's see if the other cars can beat you. Now I've jumped into the EQC. So on paper, it's slower. 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds. But if it works as it should do, unlike the Audi, it'll probably end up being quicker than the Audi actually managed to do. So this thing, it has two electric motors, and combined they put out 408 horsepower and 760 newton meters of torque. Okay, let's see what this Mercedes has got then. Hold on the brake, release the brake. Come on. This one's working perfectly. 0 to 60, 4.9 seconds. Take that, Audi. What's the quarter mile? Feel the acceleration tailing off at the top end. 13.9 seconds for the quarter mile. Right, now I'm going to do a brake test from 70 miles an hour. See how long it takes to stop. Can it beat the Audi at that as well? Remember, the Audi's got sporty brakes on it. So there we go. Full emergency stop, now. What did it do? 173 feet. So didn't stop in as short a distance as the Audi. This worked perfectly. Finally then, the BMW iX. So the entry-level iX40 has 323 horsepower, but this iX50 has 523 horsepower, 765 newton meters. 0 to 60 is supposed to take 5.2 seconds, but let's find out the truth. Hold on the brake, launch it. Go, 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 go. What are we going to do to 60? It's going to be fast, I'm telling you. 4.69, it's the winner, and it's pulling harder than the other two. Well, especially the Audi, of course, but it keeps on building its speed. This is impressive. 12.94 for the quarter mile. All right, that's good. Let's do the brake test then, see how long it takes to stop. Full emergency stop from 70 miles an hour. Yep. What we got? Oh, what's the number? 141 feet. It's that in meters. It's the best. Best for performance, best for braking. So then, what's my final verdict? Well, both the Audi e-tron and Mercedes EQC are very good. If you buy one, you won't be disappointed. But even though this is the ugliest car, most likely, as with many BMW designs, it will grow on you. And then what you have here is what sounds like an amazing V12 engine. Sod the electric cars. I want one of those. Actually, no, back to this. Yeah, not the best looking thing, could grow on you, but what you do have is the best electric SUV. It's the best to drive, it's got the best tech, it's the comfiest, and it's got the biggest battery so you can go the furthest on a charge. And that's why it wins this test. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you did, give it a like. Now, can you guess which car that V12 engine noise came from that just interrupted me? Put a pinned comment, so you can guess in there, right? I'll be looking at it. Anyway, if you want to watch some more videos, click on those windows there. And if you click on that box there, you can go to the CarWow electric car homepage.